Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Sudarshana Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Jayam Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivrajaka Stotara Sat His Divine Grace Abhay Charanar Vinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Jagannatha Baladev Subhadramay Shri Sudarshana Ki Jai Shri Gaurangi Bangalorishwara Ki Jai Shri Lakshmi Narasimha Dev Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai Jagannatha Ratha Yatra Mahotsav Ki Jai Shri Netrotsava Mahotsav Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Ki Jai. No. Let it be, never mind. It's okay. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lankayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratvishe Namaha Pancha Tattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakhyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajeshatanayas Tathama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadhu Vargenaya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumartho Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhor Matamidam Tatra Dara Na Paraha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Isha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, devotees can keep their mobile in the silent mode. Devotees can keep their mobiles in the silent mode.
Very important announcement. Otherwise you will face the wrath of Lord Jagannatha. Hare Krishna. Or as they say in Jagannath Puri, Jaya Jagannath. So I am extremely pleased to come to this magnificent temple of Lord Jagannath here. This is the first time I'm coming to the new temple. I lost my way when coming, in the sense that I couldn't recognize the roads because I'm used to coming by the old road, the small narrow road. That place is now no longer existing, yes? So in any case, wonderful to see all this happening. This is the fruit of the very sincere devotional service that all of you are doing, and Lord Jagannath has facilitated this and made it possible. So sincere devotional service never goes in vain. It always yields sweet fruit. Later on, I will explore further this building and see what else is hidden here in these premises. This is which floor? The first floor. First floor. Anyway, it's a very spacious hall, and that's nice. And that is our primary purpose, actually. The deities, of course. Without the deities, everything looks so empty, so hollow. So having wonderfully decorated and served deities are definitely the great treasure of any temple. But also, importantly, what is the use of deities being there in the temple if there are no devotees? If nobody comes to see the deities and also to hear and chant about them, then the deities themselves also are not pleased. So inasmuch as it is important to set up very nice facilities for the worship and service of the deities, it is equally important to create a facility where the devotees of the Lord can gather and hear and chant about Him. So both these objectives have been achieved in this very beautiful temple. I am aware to some degree of the struggle that has gone in to get this project up and about. It has been a sweet labor of love of many years by many devotees. So once again, heartfelt congratulations to all of you, and especially to those devotees who have worked hard to make this new project happen. Today is the holy day of Jagannatha Ratha Yatra, Ashad Shukla Ditiya, the second day of the bright fortnight of the month of Ashad. And in Jagannath Puri, for some calendrical reason, the Netrotsav also happens to be observed today. Although it generally happens the day before on the Pratipad day, the Pratima. So when I was in the North Temple, Narasimha Giridhari Temple, I was mentioning that the Ratha Yatra festival is actually not just the festival that happens on this one day of the Ashada Shukla Dvitiya. It is a month-long festival that begins even before the Snan Yatra festival begins. The Snan Yatra, and I'm sure you all observed it here in a very grand devotional manner, that happens on the Purnima of the month of Jyeshtha, the last day of Jyeshtha, because we follow what is called the Purnimanta system, the calendar system, where the Purnima or the full moon day is the last day of the month. So the Snan Purnima, as we are all aware, is the day when Lord Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra and Sudarshan were established in the temple, the day of their Prana Pratishtha. So in this part of the country you will call it Brahmotsav, I think. So you can say that the Brahmotsava of Lord Jagannath is the Snan Yatra. It is also considered the appearance day of Lord Jagannath because the Pran Pratishtha day is the day when the Lord actually appears in that particular form. The preparations for Snan Yatra begin few days before the Snan Yatra. Lots of arrangements have to be made. So the festive mood of the Rath Yatra starts building up from that time on. In fact, even before that, devotees all over in large numbers very expectantly wait for this gorgeous festival. The wonderful thing about devotional service, among many other wonderful things, is that there are lots of festivals. The festivals happen all the year round. So those who serve in the temples like this, they have their hands full. Because no sooner does one festival get over, another festival starts. And it's something like Lord Jagannath's hands never getting dry. It is said that Lord Jagannath eats sumptuously, and he is called Anna Brahma because he eats and eats and eats. He has a voracious appetite and he doesn't have any digestion problems. So we should not imitate Lord Jagannath. And it is said that because he eats so much and so frequently, so no sooner does he wash his hands. Somebody's changing. Don't change the sound system. Whoever is not being changed, right? So no sooner does he wash his hands after partaking of his food, the bhoga, before even the hand has dried after washing, it's time for the next offering. So therefore, Lord Jagannath, his hands are always wet. That is a saying in Jagannath Puri. So similarly, even the devotees of the Lord, no sooner have they got over from one festival, they're ready now preparing for the next festival. And the next, and the next, and the whole year goes by like this, and the next year begins in the same way. So actually, not just devotional service, but life itself should be a life of festivity, but the right kind of festivity. If there is festivity that is separated from the Lord, such festivity has no meaning. It is useless. We have all kinds of festivals going on, film festival and sports festivals and many other kinds of festivals. I was mentioning the other day that when Lokanath Maharaj was saying when he was coming to Belgaum, he saw a huge billboard advertising mutton festival. So people want to organize some or the other festival. But the true festival is a festival in celebration of the Lord's pastimes and His appearance and so on. So the Snan Yatra festival is just the first in the series of events, and that in totality can be called the Ratha Yatra festival. Because without the Snan Yatra, and there is no Ratha Yatra. So after the Snan Yatra, Hare Krishna, yeah. So after the Snan Yatra, the Lord goes into seclusion for some time. He is not available for giving darshan, and that period is called the Anavasara. Anavasara. So there is no avasar or opportunity for darshan of the Lord. That's why it is called Anavasara. So then he also falls sick because he has been bathed by the cool waters of the Sona Kua, and he develops some kind of viral infection or some flu. Some flu, and nowadays we will say maybe he has a touch of COVID or something like that. But he recovers very fast without the aid of any vaccines. He has his Vaidyas who give him some medicinal herbs and fruit juices and so on. And he recovers. And after he recovers, on the 16th day following the Snan Yatra, which is the Pratipat, the first day of the Krishna Paksha, or rather the Shukla Paksha of the Ashad month, we have the Netrotsava ceremony. The day after the Snan Yatra, the Ashad month starts. So the Krishna Paksha, the waning fortnight. And in that Paksha, of course, Krishna or Jagannatha doesn't give darshan. But after that Paksha is over, then he gives darshan to everyone, first at the Netrotsava ceremony. This is again a much awaited event. Devotees hanker for this event because they haven't had the darshan of Lord Jagannath for more than a fortnight. So their eyes, as Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, are like bumblebees. And Lord Jagannath's eyes and his lotus face are like sources of honey. Just as bumblebees or honeybees always wander around honey, similarly the lotus eyes of the devotees are always fascinated and attracted by the lotus eyes and the lotus face of Lord Jagannath. So the devotees come there in lakhs in the Netrotsava festival. And before that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued the tradition of washing the Gundicha Mandir in preparation for the Ratha Yatra, because in the Ratha Yatra, the deity of Lord Jagannath sits on the cart, comes out of his altar, sits in the cart and is driven down all the way to the Gundicha temple. So the Gundicha temple has to be made spick and span, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his devotees would make sure that that was done. And this tradition is followed with great fervor even today, and it will always continue. Many times, even in our ISKCON temples, we use this occasion to do a maha cleaning of the temple, our temple. So devotees gather from everywhere and they clean everything, the whole temple, the temple compound, everything. Perhaps it may be a good idea to do that. Yes, Anukul Keshav Prabhu? Maha cleaning.
Yeah, yesterday done by
They did. Whole campus.
Last week I was done and yesterday I will be done.
Wonderful. So normally we just clean the floors and a few other things, but now the ceilings, the fans, the lights, the walls, everything, the shelves, everything can be made spick and span. You see, cleanliness is next to godliness. So devotees must be very clean. It's a very important principle that supports our devotional service. And we must keep our places clean also. And what to speak then of the temple? Temple must always be kept spick and span. Every little nook and corner must be spick and span. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did exactly that. When one reads the descriptions of how Mahaprabhu cleaned the Gundicha temple, one will be astonished to see Mahaprabhu's attention to detail when it came to cleaning. He would make sure that not one speck of dust remained. Of course, in today's language, those who are not acquainted with devotional service and who are generally critical of devotional service would term this as some kind of an OCD. If you don't know what it is, doesn't matter. It's called obsessive compulsive disorder. The psychologists say it like this. When you're obsessed with something very small, beyond a reasonable degree. But for the temple, yes, no problem. We can have this OCD, make things beautiful, clean, spick and span, shining for the Lord. He's the Lord of the universe. And He has come here and He's residing here, giving us audience every single day, all day long. If the President of India or the Prime Minister of India were to come here and we had notice, would we not clean up the place and make it spick and span? So what to speak of the President of the entire material and spiritual worlds, who is staying here, who has made this his home. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would clean Gundicha temple, and then in the early morning on the Pratipat day, they would go for Jagannatha Netrotsava ceremony. When the eyes are opened and Netra Utsava, the festival of the eyes, because Lord Jagannath's eyes are opened and everyone can feast their eyes on the eyes of Lord Jagannath and his lotus face. So the Netrotsava ceremony is a time when lakhs of people come. But as I said, today or this time, the Netrotsava, I believe, is being celebrated on the same day. In fact, perhaps it's going on right now, at this very moment, as we are sitting here. It is happening in Jagannath Puri. And I think the Ratha Yatra will begin just a little bit this evening. That's what I am told. And it will continue tomorrow. So that is one aspect of Jagannath's Ratha Yatra. You can't put in your management principles for Ratha Yatra. You may be an MBA, you may be a corporate CEO, whatever you may be. But when it comes to Jagannath's Ratha Yatra, even though we should try to be very well organized when we organize the Ratha Yatra here, but for Lord Jagannath's Ratha Yatra in Puri, it's Lord Jagannath's will that matters. Sometimes He will not move. For 1 day, 2 days, if He doesn't want to go, He'll stay there. It happened during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time. King Pratap Rudra saw that the Lord's cart was not moving. So he got elephants and well-built people to come and pull the cart, but to no avail. Finally, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went behind the cart and touched his forehead to the cart, then immediately Lord Jagannath started moving in the cart. So for his own reasons, sometimes Jagannath wants to go slow. He wants to stand outside and just relish the outdoors. Can't blame him, can you? If you were all day in your house and not allowed to go out, how would you feel? So Jagannath also says, all day I'm here inside the temple and many people come to see me, but I also want to go out. I also want to be outdoors for a while, breathe some fresh air. And what's more, even though lakhs of people come to take my darshan, but still there are many people who are unable to come for some or the other reason. Either they are not permitted to come or they are not able to come. So, because I am Jagannath, so I must give my mercy to all, regardless of their backgrounds, their births, regardless of their qualifications. So then he goes on the streets and anyone and everyone can have darshan of the Lord to their heart's content. So Jagannath also has darshan of the huge ocean of devotees that gather. It is very pleasing to Jagannath to see this ocean of devotees. You know, it is very important that we come to the temple not just to see the deities, but also to let the deities see us. It's not that we are special, that the Lord gets some benefit by seeing us. We get benefit by seeing the Lord because the Lord is special. So then, why do we come to the temple apart from seeing the Lord to let the Lord see us? It is because we want to make the Lord happy. Imagine the Lord has taken the trouble to come here and establish himself here and make this his home. And then, if nobody comes to see him, then he will think, what is the use? So when the devotees come with great devotion and faithfully stand there in front of him, devotedly taking darshan, reciting prayers, glorifying the Lord, and not letting their mobile phones ring in the middle, then he becomes very happy. So then he is happy to see the devotees. Devotional service is a two-way street. It's not just a one-sided love between of the devotees to Krishna. Krishna already loves his devotees. And when the devotees come in front of the Lord also has the opportunity to reciprocate with them. So this kind of bonding between the devotee and the Lord happens in the temple of Lord Jagannath, but it also happens in a spectacular way on the streets. Because at a time, inside the temple, there's only a limited number of devotees that can gather. But on the streets, there are lakhs of people there. So this kind of bonding, and when Jagannath sees, oh, there's such a large number of devotees who have come to see me and participate in my festival, so he also becomes joyful. And when the Lord becomes joyful, we will all become joyful. Samsiddhim haritoshanam. So the formula for happiness for human society and for the world is to make the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna or Jagannath, happy. So when we go to the festival of Lord Jagannath, we not only go for our happiness because we are going to have an ecstatic time, chanting, dancing, feasting, etc., but we also go there to make Lord Jagannath happy. Because he will be happy to see all of us celebrating this festival in such a devotional and enthusiastic way. So these are the various reasons why Lord Jagannath goes out on the Ratha Yatra. There is one very famous poet, devotional poet in Odisha called Salabeg. How many of you are from Odisha here? Anyone? Any Odia devotees? One. Only one or two? Three. Just a few, handful. So you all have perhaps from your childhood heard of Kavi Salabeg. Kavi Salabeg was born in a Muslim family. His father was a general. His father was a general of some Nawab. And when he was coming to attack Lord Jagannath's temple in Puri, which has been the target of idol haters and those who hated devotional culture, as he halted at some point on the way to Puri with the intention of eventually going there and breaking the temple down and breaking the deity down, he saw this beautiful Brahmana lady and he wanted to marry her. But naturally she declined. But when she understood the situation, that he was going there to actually destroy the temple of Lord Jagannath, she was a very ardent devotee. So she said, all right, I will marry you, but on the condition that you should not go and destroy the temple of Jagannath. You should not cause any harm to that temple. So he agreed. And in that way, she made a big sacrifice. And then they had a son whose name was Salabeg. He was equally fierce as his father. And one time in battle, he was severely injured when he became a young man. And there seemed to be no hope for his recovery. And in great desperation and frustration, he called out to his mother, who was there. His mother always remained a very staunch devotee of Lord Jagannath. Despite being married to that general of the Nawab, who was also not a devotee of the Lord, she retained her faith very strongly. And she would tell her son Salabeg sometimes that about Lord Jagannath and about Krishna and Vrindavan. And at that time, when he was in deep agony and pain, the wounds were not healing. So his mother told him to think about Vrindavan and Radha and Krishna and Jagannath. And when he intensely started praying, miraculously somehow or the other, after a certain period of time, he recovered. And then something wonderful happened. There was a great transformation of heart. And he became mad after Jagannath. And he said, I want to go to take his darshan. And he ran from where he was towards Jagannath Puri. And as he was going, he sang a song because it was the Ratha Yatra time. The Ratha Yatra was just about to begin. Approximately at this time. And he was walking and walking as fast as he could. And in that great agony of not being able to see Jagannath, because if he misses him, then he won't be able to go inside the temple once the Lord reaches Gundicha. And then he composed a poem spontaneously, asking Jagannath to wait. And Jagannath waited. So he refused to move. And then at some point, when Salabeg came there, he had his darshan of Jagannath to his heart's content. So Salabeg composed many, many poems in glorification of Lord Jagannath. So this is just, as I was explaining, one reason why in the Ratha Yatra Lord Jagannath can stay sometimes. So we do not know the reasons. Perhaps there's some devotee waiting who wants to have his darshan, and Jagannath says, I want to wait till that devotee reaches here. Maybe, who knows? So it is inconceivable. So Lord Jagannath's Ratha Yatra happens by his own sweet will and by the sincere devotion of his devotees. So anyway, this Kavi Salabeg is also very, very famous in Odisha. And so there are hundreds of devotees of this sort who are so well known. So there is a whole cult of devotion around Jagannath. I use the word cult in a positive sense. Nowadays the word cult is used in a negative sense. But when we say Srila Prabhupada and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they would speak of the cult of devotion service, meaning the whole culture, the process of devotional service. So Jagannath is a fascinating deity, and if you go ask any Odia, they will always be devoted to Jagannath. Even if they are atheists, they will have some soft corner for Jagannath. That is the power of Lord Jagannath in Odisha. And by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, his arrangement, now that mercy of Lord Jagannath is available to one and all over the world. Who could have possibly imagined that the Jagannatha Ratha Yatra would happen in San Francisco, in New York, in Tokyo, Melbourne, Europe, London? Who could have possibly imagined that before Srila Prabhupada went to the West? Something unimaginable, inconceivable. And today, there's hardly any important city in the world where the Ratha Yatra has not taken place at least sometime, once or twice. And in many places it happens every year. And in India, apart from Jagannath Puri, now the number of Ratha Yatras has just proliferated. Earlier we used to have only a few ISKCON Ratha Yatras in India, a handful, and devotees would go to each place. But now there's practically 100 Ratha Yatras, maybe more, happening every year. So Lord Jagannath's glories, Lord Jagannath's mercy are spreading everywhere, all over India and all over the world. So such is the nature of the contribution of Srila Prabhupada. He has made available the cult of devotion to Lord Jagannath everywhere, all over the world. And so Lord Jagannath has become so famous now. Today is the day when the Ratha Yatra will begin shortly for some time, and then tomorrow onwards they will continue. And I think he will hardly be there in Gundicha temple on this occasion for a short while. I was told that on this occasion, because the Netrotsava and the Ratha Yatra are on the same day, and there is also a meeting of Tithis on the return time, and the time for staying in Gundicha is very small. So for all these various reasons, they predict that this is an inauspicious omen, that many troublesome things are going to happen in the world for the next couple of years. That is what somebody told me. One devotee was mentioning this just a few days ago. In any case, devotees of Lord Jagannath will go on chanting and dancing. And because of that chanting and dancing, whatever inauspiciousness may come will all be set right. Apart from the other reasons that I mentioned about Lord Jagannath's Ratha Yatra, there is also a very deep esoteric reason. And I was mentioning that yesterday in Whitefield, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Jagannath are two very, very special forms of Krishna. They are both directly Krishna. What's more, they are also forms who are experiencing and displaying symptoms of separation. Separation from whom? Jagannath is Krishna, experiencing separation from the gopis and the residents of Vrindavan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also Krishna, feeling separation from Krishna, from himself, because he is in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So Srila Prabhupada says there is always a transcendental competition between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannath. And this competition could happen especially at the time of the Ratha Yatra. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go along with his devotees, chanting enthusiastically and dancing along the streets as the Ratha Yatra proceeded, sometimes when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the front of Lord Jagannath, Jagannath would also enthusiastically move forward. However, sometimes as he danced and danced and danced, when he came to the rear of the chariot, Lord Jagannath would stop, not being able to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in the front, then again he would start. In this way, there was a transcendental loving competition between the two lords, between Krishna in these two unique forms. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had made 7 Sankirtan parties. 4 in the front, 1 on either side, and 1 at the back. And each had 2 mridanga players and certain number of singers. Mahaprabhu was very meticulous in his organization and management, despite whatever we said about Lord Jagannatha and how our principles of management may not always work with Lord Jagannath. But our effort should be to always make meticulous arrangements. Our management should be like that. So even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that. And we can follow in his footsteps. He was very clear. He appointed certain devotees to lead each group of Sankirtan. And he appointed certain devotees who would sing in the chorus. He appointed certain devotees in each group who would be the lead dancers. He appointed 2 people who would play the mridangas. In that way, all the 7 groups were very carefully organized. The people were personally selected by Mahaprabhu. Who would be the lead singers? Who would be the chorus singers? Who would be the mridanga players? Who would be the dancers, lead dancers in the kirtan? This was the extent to which Mahaprabhu became a hands-on organizer. When we generally think of devotional service, we tend to make a distinction between preaching and management. Am I right? Sometimes devotee will say, I'm a preacher, I'm not a manager. And sometimes a devotee will say, I'm a manager, I'm not a preacher. But for Lord's service, we are everything. The management is also preaching because it is meant to facilitate preaching of Krishna consciousness. If the management is poor, if things are disorganized, then it results in bad preaching, giving a bad image of the movement to the people at large. It also creates a wastage of time, money, and resources. It can also cause relationships between devotees to get spoiled. So management exists for the sake of facilitating the practice of Krishna consciousness, hearing and chanting about the Lord, organizing festivals and organizing classes and so on and so forth. At the same time, in the course of preaching, if we are not going to organize our preaching well enough, if our management is not up to the standard, the preaching will also get spoiled. So we should not make this binary so strictly that we are a manager, we are a preacher. Every preacher must be able to organize his or her efforts at least to some degree. Every manager must also be aware that his dealings are actually going to impact the preaching and that they're actually meant to facilitate the preaching. And therefore, in that sense, the management is also non-different from preaching. Because ultimately everything is for the pleasure of Krishna. So on the absolute platform, we do not make a distinction. So the humble devotee who is cleaning the toilets, sweeping the floor, cutting the vegetables sitting in the background is as glorious as the devotee who is sitting on a big vyasasana and delivering a lecture to hundreds of people. There is no difference on the devotional platform. Even if the devotee is not being noticed by too many other people, even if he is not getting glorified, unlike some other devotees who may receive so much respect and glorification, but Krishna notices. Krishna very carefully notes the contributions and services of every single devotee, small or big. So this is the nature of Krishna. Ishwarera svabhav bhaktir na loy aparad alpaseva bahumani atma paryanta prasad. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Goswami says that the nature of the Supreme Lord is that he doesn't take the devotee's offenses very seriously. But if the devotee offers even a little bit of service, alpa seva, Bahumani, he considers that to be very great. And even for that very little service that the devotee has offered, Krishna becomes so grateful to that devotee. Atma Paryanta Prasad. He is actually willing to submit himself to that devotee, even to sell himself to that devotee. He becomes eternally a debtor to that devotee. So this is the nature of Krishna. So therefore devotional service has this absolute nature, this two-way reciprocal nature of the dealings between the devotees and the Supreme Lord. So all types of services are the same. So tomorrow no devotee should feel, oh, that devotee is right in the forefront, getting all the haribols from the devotees. And I'm in the background, I'm only making garlands, and nobody appreciates my service, nobody sees what I am doing. No. Jagannath is watching, Jagannath is reciprocating. Of course, as devotees, we should also appreciate the services of those who may be serving in the background. So in any case, so Lord Jagannath's festival is happening for all these external reasons. He wants to give opportunity to everyone to serve him in so many ways. On this gathering, on the Ratha Yatra, people can make offerings like this, just showing it to Lord Jagannath from where they're standing on the street, and lakhs of people do that. Sometimes you can just give it to the pujari, the panda, he will place it at the lotus feet of the Lord. These kind of opportunities are not possible when the Lord is in the temple. There was a devotee called Dasya Bauri, great devotee of Lord Jagannath. And because he was from a quote-unquote lower caste, the tradition at that time was that he could not enter into the temple. So he sent some coconut as an offering to Jagannath through some devotee who was going there. He said, but I have one condition. When you offer it in front of Jagannath, please don't bring back the coconut. Please don't stop making the offering till Jagannath extends his hand and takes the coconut physically from your hands. So this devotee thought, oh, this fellow is just an innocent villager. What does he know of devotional service? He doesn't understand philosophy. And these things don't happen like that. We offer to the Lord in some transcendental way, it happens. But to expect that the Lord will physically extend his hand and take some coconut is a little too much. So anyway, he went because he wanted to please Dasya Bauri. So he went to offer that to Jagannath. And indeed, he suddenly saw in a flash that a hand reached out from the altar. It all happened in the span of a second or a more fraction of a second. The hand reached out and grabbed the coconut from this devotee's hand and took it away. And this devotee was struck with wonder. And then he went back and started glorifying Dasya Bauri as if he had 100 mouths. On another occasion, Dasya Bauri himself came with a lot of mangoes to offer to Jagannath. And because he couldn't go inside the temple, he stayed outside and wanted to offer it to the Sudarshan Chakra. So all Vishnu temples or Krishna temples have the Sudarshan Chakra on top. So if someone is unable to go inside the temple for some reason, if that devotee has darshan of Sudarshan Chakra and offers obeisances, it is considered as good or equal to actually going inside the temple and having darshan of Lord Jagannath himself. So Dasya Bauri, he came with these mangoes, and the pujaris who were going inside, they said, okay, you got so many mangoes, wonderful, you give it to me. Another panda said, no, you give it to me. A third panda says, no, it's my job, you give it to me. He said, I'm not going to give it to any of you. I'm going to offer it myself. So they all scoffed at him and said, how can you offer yourself? You can't go inside. So he said, no, the Lord will accept my offering. I will offer it from the Simhadwar outside. This Simhadwar is the main entrance gateway to enter into the Jagannath temple. And that is the entrance through which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to enter every day. There is a place where you wash your feet and then you go in. So, in any case, I wish we could do that in all our temples also. But somehow then there are issues, then the whole temple will become muddy with all the water and everything else. Anyway, so Dasya Bauri came in with all the mangoes. And even as these pujaris and pandas were watching, as he took one mango, held it in his palms and offered to Jagannath and told him to please accept it, in front of their very eyes, the mango disappeared from the hands of Dasya Bauri. And they didn't know where it went. He offered a second mango and a third and a fourth. And in this way, each and every mango kept disappearing from the palms of Dasya Bauri. And these pandas were astonished. And they said, you're doing some kind of black magic or something. You're up to no good. What have you done? How has this happened? He said, no, Jagannath has taken. How can we understand that Jagannath has taken it? So Dasya Bauri said, go inside and look on the altar. And you will see the skin of the mango and the seed of the mango there. The pandas rushed inside, and sure enough, they found a whole stack of mango seeds and skin lying there. Jagannath had grabbed the mangoes. Because Jagannath is more eager to accept our offering of love than we are to offer. So we have the kind of innocent, sublime devotion that Dasya Bauri had. Certainly, Lord Jagannath will accept our offering wherever we are. You may have heard of that incident which has become famous in ISKCON now. This happened a couple of years ago. And there was this one ISKCON temple, and that temple received a phone call from one lady in the country of Estonia in Europe. Now most people haven't even heard of Estonia. We heard of America, Germany, France, so many countries, but Estonia is not a very well-known country. So that pujari got a phone call from that lady there in Estonia. And she said that somehow Jagannath came to me in my dream, and he told me that he's very upset. And so they find out what is the reason for being upset. He said, because he's saying somebody has given some mangoes and you're not giving me those mangoes. And so when she fed the mangoes to Lord Jagannath, then Jagannath became pleased, and she called back to say, yes, Jagannath is the lady was in India. Yes, now I remember. The lady was in India, and she had a dream that there is a deity of Jagannath in one ISKCON temple in Estonia. And she found out somehow the number of that temple, and she called. And the pujari there who answered the phone was mystified. She said, how is Lord Jagannath not happy? So the lady said, no, Jagannath appeared to me in my dream and told me that I am in this temple in Estonia and I am not happy because somebody has offered some mangoes, but these pujaris have not offered the mangoes to me, they have just kept the mangoes there. So then she said, do you have some mangoes that you've kept aside in some room separately? He said, yes. Somebody from India had come and they brought a box of mangoes, and we've kept them with the idea that we will sometime offer them. So the lady told the pujari, don't wait, just do it now. When Lord Jagannath wants something, he wants it. And you have to do it right away. So immediately offer these mangoes to Jagannath. So then the pujari hastily went in, cut the mangoes and offered to Lord Jagannath. And the next day the lady called, yes, Jagannath appeared in my dream and said now he's happy. Because he got to eat the mangoes. How can one think of such a thing? Where is the lady in India, ISKCON devotee? She was not a sannyasi or anything. A lady who is a congregational devotee and living in her home, but very devoted obviously. The Lord Jagannath appeared in a dream and told her this. And she had never heard of Estonia. Somehow she found out the telephone number. And how Lord Jagannath operates is again a great mystery. So you see, Lord Jagannath is a very active Lord. He keeps doing pastimes like this, even with ordinary devotees. Of course, we don't want to imitate this artificially because we don't want to act on a sentimental platform. Our service is based on a philosophical understanding. And if these things do happen occasionally, it's all right, but we should not start thinking that I also had a dream and something happened and therefore I can do that. So we should be cautious that we don't go on this path. So anyway, this is the way that Lord Jagannath deals with his devotees. So in the Ratha Yatra, there is ample opportunity for the millions of devotees who come there to have these very personal interactions with him. Not everybody is like Dasya Bauri, for whom Jagannath will accept their offerings physically from outside the temple. But ordinary devotees like you and me, we can go there and we can have darshan, we can actually go physically offer things. So this is the beauty of the Ratha Yatra. I'll finally conclude with the esoteric or the inner reason for the Ratha Yatra. The Jagannath temple is considered to be Dwarka because Lord Jagannath is Dwarkadish, but he is Dwarkadish feeling separation from Vrindavan. And he is accompanied by his sister Subhadra and his brother Balaram. And they are standing there on the altar, served very opulently by the devotees. Lakshmi Devi is also there in another room. And during the Anavasara period, Lord Jagannath retires to this room, it's called Ratna Vedi, and he spends time with his wife, Lakshmi Devi. Now, as the Ratha Yatra commences, Lord Jagannath is now eager to go from Dwarka to Vrindavan. Even when he was living in Dwarka, even though he was served by the queens and all his other devotees with utmost devotion and with so much of opulence, somehow or the other, he could not forget Vrindavan. Even in his sleep, he would call out the names of the cowherd boys, the names of the gopis, and so on. And the queens would wonder, where is the lack on our part? What is it that we are doing wrong? Why is it that Krishna is not fully satisfied with our devotion, that he has to keep remembering Vrindavan? So this is the nature of Vrindavan. It is incomparable, unparalleled. Even the residents of Dwarka, who are his eternal associates, pure devotees, even they cannot fathom the depths of the devotion of the Vrajavasis for Krishna, and in particular that of the gopis. So Jagannath is always eager, because that form of Jagannath called Mahabhava Prakash is a form of separation, as I mentioned at the beginning of the talk, where he is feeling separation from Vrindavan. And that is why that that very peculiar form that we see with his hands and feet withdrawn into the body, and his eyes which have, become very large and round. They are actually symptoms of transcendental ecstasy. When Krishna in Dwarka remembers his associates and his pastimes in Vrindavan. So now, Jagannath, sitting in Jagannath Puri temple, Nilachal, is now thinking, oh, I want to go to Vrindavan as well. I want to visit. And the Ratha Yatra is the opportunity to do so. So this is the internal or esoteric reason for the Ratha Yatra being celebrated. That Jagannath wants to go to Vrindavan, at least for some days, to be with the Brajabasis. And so when the devotees, they pull the cart, what they are doing is to take Krishna from Dwarka to Vrindavan. This is the mood. Therefore, devotees of the Lord are in the mood of Vrindavan. They are not very happy with the Ulta Rath or the Bahuda Rath when the Lord returns from Gundicha temple back to Jagannath temple. Because he is now back as Dwarkadhish. Here he is there as Shyamasundar. Of course, that follows of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Mahaprabhu himself. They saw Jagannath as Krishna playing the flute. On several occasions in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would see Jagannath not as others would see him, but he would actually see Shyamasundar Krishna in threefold bending form playing the flute. And he would lose himself in the transcendental ecstasy of this vision. So, in that mood, Jagannath is very eager to go. So the Ratha Yatra festival is that occasion when Lord Jagannath can fulfill this one desire. And so he is escorted in grand fashion in a big cart, as are Baladev and Subhadra, and they go together toward Gundicha Mandir, pulled by many devotees. And the historical event for this is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. One time, during a solar eclipse in Kurukshetra, Krishna and the other Dwarkavasis had gone there to perform auspicious ritualistic ceremonies, because that was considered the good thing to do. And he sent an invitation to the Brajabasis to come there also at the same time. Remember that once when Krishna left Vrindavan, the residents of Vrindavan were feeling intense separation from him. He went to Mathura and from Mathura to Dwarka. Actually, even though Krishna never returned to Vrindavan, as per the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no mention of that directly, but Srila Jiva Goswami mentions that Sri Krishna did come one time after he killed Dantavakra. But in any case, Krishna was very eager to see his Brajavasi devotees, and the devotees were very eager to see him. So they all rushed to Kurukshetra from Vrindavan. But when they saw Krishna, they were a little disappointed. They had mixed feelings. They were happy to see Krishna, but they were also disappointed. Because the Krishna they saw was a little different from the Krishna they were accustomed to seeing in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, Krishna plays the flute. But in Dwarka, no flute. Only a weapon, a sword and a club and so on and so forth. And in Vrindavan, Krishna had the gopis, but here there were the queens. In Vrindavan, Krishna had the cowherd boyfriends, and here Krishna had his other friends like Uddhava and so on. So there were so many differences. There was a whole vast difference in the mood. Krishna in Vrindavan is eternally a cowherd boy. Krishna likes to think of himself as a cowherd boy and not as a supreme personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada at one place says, this is the meaning of the word pastime. When we say Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, we mean that those activities performed by Krishna when Krishna imagines himself to be a cowherd boy and not the Supreme Lord. Of course, on some occasions, Krishna also displays his godhood, Bhagavata. So in any case, here was Krishna in a different mood altogether, a mood of opulence, where his worshippers surrounded him in awe and reverence. But in Vrindavan, there is no awe and reverence. There is only an intimacy and a sweetness that is unparalleled. No other place in the material or spiritual worlds can compare with that atmosphere of sweet, intimate devotion as is there in Vrindavan. So the Brajabasis and especially the gopis, whilst they were happy to see Krishna, didn't like to see him as a prince with that golden helmet and the sword and the club and all of that, sitting on a big chariot, on a cart. So when the time came for Krishna to go back to Dwarka, they said, no, you come back to Vrindavan, you don't go to Dwarka now. So they began pulling the cart. And that is a ceremony of the Ratha Yatra. So the devotees act as representatives of the Brajabasis, trying to take Krishna back from Kurukshetra or Dwarka to Vrindavan. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after taking sannyas, resided in Jagannath Puri, he would make it a point to have darshan of Lord Jagannath every single day. And he would spend several hours over there. Then once he finished his noontime duties, then he would come and visit Haridas Thakur. It so happened that on one occasion, Rupa Goswami had also come to Jagannath Puri and he was staying near that place also. He was staying in a little cottage with a thatched roof. Now during the Ratha Yatra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would chant many verses, many songs even. Some of the verses the devotees were familiar with, like Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha, Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya, Govindaya Namo Namaha. So this is one of the verses that Mahaprabhu chanted, and the devotees were familiar with that. But there were some songs that he chanted that they just could not understand. Well, they understood the meaning, but they didn't understand why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting those songs, because superficially those songs were ordinary love songs on the mundane platform between a lover and a beloved. So the devotees, of course, they understood Mahaprabhu is singing it, so there's some transcendental reason for it, but they actually couldn't get the true meaning. For example, he would chant, now I have finally obtained the Lord of my life. And I was earlier burning in the fire of separation, but now my heart is pacified on seeing that. So it seemed like an ordinary mundane thing. He didn't use the word Lord in that sense, but the devotees used to wonder. Only Swarup Damodar would understand the inner meaning of the songs that Mahaprabhu would sing. He also sang another song or a stanza of a song starting with Yaha Kaumara Haraha, the meeting of which is that a lover is waiting for a beloved and waiting for an opportunity to see in a certain situation on the banks of the Reva river and so on. So the devotees were a little puzzled, but they thought, yes, there's some reason. One time when Mahaprabhu came to the place of Haridas Thakur, and he saw that in Rupa Goswami's cottage, on the thatched roof, there was a palm leaf on which was written in pearl-like handwriting. Rupa Goswami's handwriting was like pearls, a string of pearls, very beautiful handwriting. And so he looked at the palm leaf and he saw there was a Sanskrit verse that was written on it. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became struck with wonder and immediately called Rupa Goswami and lovingly, gently slapped him on his cheek and said, "How did you know the innermost feelings of my heart?" Because that particular verse composed by Rupa Goswami was actually an explanation of that Yaha Kaumarahara verse that was sung by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this was a purport to that verse. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Swarup Damodar, "Swarup, how is it that Rupa knows my innermost desires?" So Swarup said, "My dear Lord, this is evidence that you have showered your mercy upon Rupa Goswami." So Mahaprabhu said, yes, he is a fit candidate for understanding the intricacies of devotional service. So, my dear Swarup, please inform Rupa Goswami of all the subtle details of devotional service. And that verse that Rupa Goswami had composed, I mentioned it yesterday at Whitefield also, but since this is such an important verse for us, it's an important topic on the day of the Ratha Yatra, so I'll say it again. Priyaso yam Krishna sahachari kurukshetra melitas tathaham saradha tat idam ubhayor sangama sukham tathapyantah khelan madhura murali panchamajushe mano me kalindi pulina vipinaya sprihyati. Rupa Goswami is narrating in this verse that Srimati Radharani is speaking to the gopis at Kurukshetra when they see Krishna. So she says, Sahachari, referring to her friends, the other gopis. O Sahachari, O Gopi, just see, Priyaha, our dear Priyaso Saha Ayam Krishna. So this Krishna, our dear Krishna, is here. The same Krishna that we know is here. The same Krishna is here. Kurukshetra Melitas, and we are now meeting in Kurukshetra. Sa Radha Tatha Aham, and I am also the same Radha. He is the same Krishna, I am the same Radha. But nevertheless, Manome Kalindi Pulina Vipinaya Sprihyati. But my mind is not here in Kurukshetra. My mind goes back to Vrindavan on the banks of the river Yamuna or Kalindi, under the Vanshivata tree, Khelan Madhura Murali Panchamajushe, where Krishna stands there in his threefold bending form, playing the flute on the fifth note. I want to see that Krishna. So even though I am happy to see Krishna here, he is Krishna, I am Radharani, but nevertheless, I am still remembering that Krishna in Vrindavan who is playing the flute. Meaning that there is a difference in the mood between Krishna in Dwarka and Krishna in Vrindavan. He is the same Krishna. No difference, but only difference is in the mood. So this is exactly the heart of the whole Ratha Yatra pastime. That the devotees are following in the footsteps of Radharani and the gopis and pulling Jagannath or Krishna of Dwarka back to Vrindavan. Come, you please come here. So this is in brief how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained the pastime of the Ratha Yatra and how he also participated in the Ratha Yatra festival. For those of you who are keen to acquire or learn more details, you can see the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela chapter 13, the Lord's ecstatic dancing at Ratha Yatra. If you get time today, fine, otherwise tomorrow. Because today we'll all have to go for the Ratha Yatra, which begins in the afternoon. So very good wishes for a very ecstatic celebration of the Ratha Yatra today. And my heartfelt thanks to all the devotees here, led by Anukul Keshav Prabhu and his team, and to each and every one of you for having created such a magnificent, wonderful atmosphere here. And I do look forward to participating in the Ratha Yatra with all of you.
Speed dancing on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so Anukul Keshav Prabhu's instruction is that I can speak on the dancing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the afternoon.
So everybody can come in the mood of dancing.
So that's at 2 o'clock, right?
2 o'clock, Madhava. Time change.
Okay.
Yes, second floor.
Okay, thank you. So we'll be there at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much. Shri Jagannatha Ratha Yatra Mahotsav ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Gaura Premanande. And we also had the pleasure and privilege of having a very senior devotee in our midst, His Grace Bhakti Vinod Prabhu, who has also been here for, I think, quite a while. Right? This is your base.
He is staying here only.
Ah, you're staying here. So,
He is giving always the association to stay.
Jai. Hare Krishna, Bhakti Vinod Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
One explanation for senior devotees.
Yeah.
Senior devotees.
Senior devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.